topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning. Well, actually, it's afternoon. Man, Juan, I don't know how I do this. I guess just too many shows. We've got morning shows. We've got afternoon shows. Anyway, this is afternoon, so I don't want you to think your watch is wrong. I am so excited about today's show. Our first expert is something that's dear to my heart. We're going to be talking about sleep apnea and snoring, which I admit, I've suffered for it for probably 6 years now. And, people don't know how serious sleep apnea is. And you're going to learn about it today. If you have problems snoring, which really can hurt your relationship, or you have sleep apnea, we have got the greatest expert with us. Let me introduce you to our expert, Janet Bennett. She's a speech and language pathologist. And Janet, I am so happy to have you on the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, I got to tell you, people don't take sleep apnea serious enough.
Right.
You can actually die from sleep apnea because you literally stop breathing.
That's right.
And, I got to also tell you, and people out there who have snoring problems, boy, it can really hurt a relationship. And we're going to be talking about that today. I am so glad we have you on our show. First of all, tell everybody about your background.
Okay, so I'm a speech and language pathologist. I have a master's degree in it, and I've been practicing in a private practice for many years. And I started thinking about being a speech pathologist when I was 12 years old because I watched the movie The Miracle, and I didn't know I didn't know the word speech pathologist, but I knew I wanted to help people like that person on TV had done. And so from age 12 on, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I never dreamt that it would end up being about snoring, though. So
we didn't even know what that was back then.
I know. I know.
And you know what? Also, Janet, some people don't even know they have a snoring problem.
That's right. Actually, I believe that snoring has a very poor social connotation to it. People are embarrassed.
Yes.
Every adult pair that I worked with, they would say, I don't snore. Like one would say, I don't snore. And I would think, well, why would you lie about that? Or why would your wife say you do when you don't? They are embarrassed to say they snore. And it's too bad because we can help get rid of that very quickly.
Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. I got to tell you, my wife used to tell me that she doesn't snore. So one night, I had to do this. I turned the tape recorder on. And when she fell asleep and she started snoring, I played it for her the next day. And she was shocked.
Yes.
And you're right. People don't know if they do or not.
Right.
And that it's okay if you snore because you can correct that.
Right.
And that's what this show is going to be about.
Okay.
And tell us a little bit, how long have you been in practice for?
Since Do I really have to tell you that?
That's okay.
Since 1977.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, I know. So, uh, shall I tell you how I discovered a cure for snoring?
How did yes?
Okay, okay. So I was in my office one day. I was specialized in treating tongue thrust. I'm sure that a lot of your viewers know what a tongue thrust is. Tongue
Yeah.
thrust is when one swallows and the tongue might push the back of the teeth or come between the teeth. Anyway, they are swallowing incorrectly and they might have a lisp. They might have buck teeth where the tongue has pushed the teeth out. There are lots of things that come with tongue thrusts. But anyway, I was treating a 14-year-old football player for a tongue thrust. He came to me for his third lesson. And his mom stuck her head in the door and said, "Janet, what are you doing to Adam?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And she said, "Well, he's always been the loudest snorer in the world. The windows rattle," she said, "and now he's not making a sound." I, well,
That's amazing.
I didn't know anything about snoring, nothing.
And
So
he had no apparatus either.
Right, right. And I looked at Adam and I said, "Adam, tell me more." And he said, "Well, it's true." He said, "I'm doing better in school. I'm concentrating better. I'm waking up feeling better and I run faster." Well, when he said
Run
I
fast.
run faster, I thought, this might be important. And if this makes you run faster. So I ran home to a computer, didn't even have a computer in my office at the time. And I knew I was going to get on the computer and find that they were treating snoring with tongue exercises. I believed
Wow.
that, but no, that's not what I found.
Was he running? Was he
He was
because
a
he had
football player.
because he was getting better sleep,
Yes,
giving him
yes.
more energy?
Yes. See, apparently
Okay.
what he did was he took my exercises. I had only seen him 2 times. So he had learned about 4 or 5 exercises to do. And he was determined, I believe, to stop snoring. And so he did it. He became very mindful about what I was asking him to do. And he nipped it in the bud immediately. And he started seeing results very quickly. He woke up feeling refreshed. And the thing is, all of this comes back to mouth breathing. There are so many different things that are intertwined and go together. So I can't just treat a tongue thrust without treating mouth breathing and sleep apnea if it's there. But let me tell the audience that I'm not a medical person, and I cannot say that my program, the I Just Want to Sleep program, will make your sleep apnea go away. I cannot say that. What I can say, though, is that my program will stop your snoring. And if you think about it, if you stop snoring, I don't see how you can have sleep apnea.
Oh, that makes sense. Well, what is is there a difference between sleep apnea and snoring?
Well, what happens is, let's say the person starts breathing from their mouth. Okay, maybe they aren't always breathing through their mouth, but something happens that sometimes we could get real sick, and for a long time, our nose is congested and we have to breathe through our mouth. And, so something like that could actually get you in the habit of mouth breathing if it goes on too long. So, this same person who's snoring, mouth breathing, when they start snoring, if they start snoring louder and their mouth opens wider, and that can lead to sleep apnea. So what happens is the snore, the sound of it comes from when the maybe part of the tongue is sliding back in the throat and blocking some of that airway. Okay, makes that noise with hair
Yes.
in and out. Okay, but then as it gets worse, as more of the tongue slides down and blocks the airway, it can cut off your air. And that's when you stop breathing and your brain all of a sudden makes you snort and wake up and,
Right.
and saves your life. Okay.
That's true. That is so true.
Right, right. And so what I've learned is that our tongue has a natural suctioning ability. So whenever you are asleep and all your muscles are relaxed and you're asleep and your tongue starts creeping back down your throat and it fills up your throat, the suctioning ability of the tongue takes over. And that's why it's so hard to get the tongue out of the airway. It's actually kind of suctioned in there. Okay. And then this snort is what kicks it out. So what the I Just Want to Sleep program has done from the beginning is taken that attribute of the tongue, the suctioning ability, and it trains you to suction your tongue to the roof of your mouth so it can't fall down and block your airway.
I want to interject, Janet. This is so important, and our show doesn't just cover you. It covers down to Galveston. It goes up to Huntsville, and I want everyone to know that people can actually call your office. Doesn't matter where they live, and you can do kind of a telemedicine over the internet.
Zoom. Yes, I can. That's the way I'm treating people now. We do it through Zoom. I can, the sky's the limit.
Just tell people what your phone number is, first of all.
Okay. It's 828-273-9888.
Now, I'm not trying to scare anybody, but you need the truth. Janet, if someone lets sleep apnea go and the snoring, tell them, there's problems with that.
Well, it's hard on your heart. Every
Yes.
time that you stop breathing, your heart takes a hit. Okay, I'm not a cardiologist or anything.
No, we know that.
We just know that if you stop breathing and if you stop breathing long enough, so that's where the death part comes in. Okay, if your brain doesn't wake you up quickly, there's a type of sleep apnea called central sleep apnea. And that part of the brain that wakes you up doesn't work very well in people with central sleep apnea. Obstructive sleep apnea is where the brain is working well, and hopefully it will wake you up. But you really need to find out how to stop snoring, because that will stop the sleep apnea.
People, I'm going to tell you, if somebody tells you that you're snoring, you're probably snoring. And we are going to educate you on Janet's show. And I want you really to take this serious, because I went years and I just kind of blew it off. And it's detrimental to your health, first of all. Right. And it could cause real problems.
Right.
And you know what? I got to tell you, so I have a CPAP machine. They are not cheap.
Right.
And a lot of the apparatuses out there are not cheap. And you're kind of giving people away that they don't have to spend as much money doing it your way. And a lot of it, they're going to find out it has to do with tongue thrust.
That's right. A tongue thrust. And all of this goes back to mouth breathing. Mouth breathing is the real culprit. Let's say, and also your tongue. A lot of people have a tongue that is just too big for their mouth. So picture yourself falling asleep. Your muscles are all relaxed, and your tongue, because it is too wide for your mouth, is just going to slowly part your lips so that all of a sudden you can be mouth breathing and not even know it. Okay. And so that is the culprit, because now that causes you to have other problems, the snoring, the sleep apnea, and we have to treat the tongue thrust in order to properly teach you how to close your lips. See, it's all intertwined.
Do you think that when you see someone who's actually breathing out their mouth, they have parting of the lips, do you think they're having a problem?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. A lot of people are like this, with just their lips parted some,
right,
when they're awake. Some people actually breathe through their nose while they're awake, but mouth breathe during the night. Now, how do you know if you mouth breathe? I've found that people will tell me, no, I don't breathe through my mouth. No, no, no. But by the time we hang up, they know they breathe through their mouth. And the way they know that is because I ask questions, and my questions are going to be, do you wake up with a dry mouth? If you wake up with a dry mouth, you breathe through your mouth.
Gotcha. That
There's
makes
no
sense.
question. There's no question. Okay. Some people wake up with a headache. A lot of people wake up with a headache that goes away like within 30 minutes. Some people wake up with a sore throat. And what we don't realize, I mean, I can take this a step further with hoarseness, hoarse voice. I'll get otolaryngologists send people to me for hoarseness, and actually their larynx is just dehydrated from all the mouth breathing. There's so many different physical problems that go with that. Some more of my questions, and the viewers and listeners today, think about this as I'm saying them. I'm going to make sure I don't miss much. So you're going to wake up tired if you're mouth breathing. You're tired. You wish you could just sleep for 5 more minutes.
Yes.
Okay? That tells you you're a mouth breather. You go to work, you get up, you go to work, and then about 1 o'clock, you're sleepy. You have that daytime sleepiness. You're a mouth breather. It all leads back to that. Okay. And there are other things I've learned over the years of working with people who mouth breathe. And that is that there are all kinds of health issues that are associated with it. I started this thinking it was just snoring that I was going to be treating. Okay. Snoring and tongue thrust. But indeed, people, whenever they train their tongue to live on the roof of their mouth, so it's
Right.
out of the way of the airway. Okay. They train that, and they train themselves to breathe through their nose. And it can be scary at first, but it works. We do it slowly. Then they notice that all these other problems go away. Like all of a sudden they don't have that bloated feeling. Well, what does that have to do with it? Well, whenever you breathe through your mouth and you're chewing food, you have to open your mouth to get some air in because you think that's the only way you can breathe. And when
Wow.
you do that, you get too much air in your body, so you feel bloated. So that goes away, Let's see. Bad dreams. Bad dreams have to do with mouth breathing. Aches and pains in the shoulder and neck have to do with mouth breathing. I'm looking here to look at other things. Some people wake up and their bed sheets are all messy or
Yes.
on the floor. Well, why is that? What are you saying? Has to do with mouth breathing? Well, yes, as a matter of fact, because whenever you mouth breathe, you're getting cold, dirty air into your body. And your body can't release nitric oxide, which is so important. And some people have restless leg syndrome. They're just restless sleepers. So when you start this program, and it's just 7 weeks long, okay, 7 weeks long of exercises, tongue and lip exercises. And when you start it, if you do your exercises, you will immediately start feeling some changes. Like you may wake up one morning and your sheets aren't as messy. Okay, so it's like gradual changes. Or you might wake up and your mouth isn't as dry. Okay,
Wow. So is your program, is it weekly, every twice a week? How does it work?
Okay, so you get the program online. It's digital, and you start lesson 1. It's good to do it once a week. You'll get new exercises each week, and you'll be expected to practice them 2 times a day. Now, I know there are some exercise programs out there, and you have to spend like 3 hours. Okay, this is like 15 minutes each time you practice. One of the great things about my program is that now I have included me training an adult male how to do these exercises so that you can be sure you're doing them correctly. So you can watch me train somebody doing those exercises that you're supposed to be practicing. And then there's another video you go to when you want to practice. You just come into my exercise room and I'm sitting there. I'm waiting to exercise with you. I will count for you if you have to count. I will time things. I will do it. But I wanted this to be an easy to use program. And you've got to be accountable to someone. So you can be accountable to me. Okay. And we'll get through it together in 7 weeks. Okay. You think about that. 7 weeks.
Now, what about after the 7 weeks are over? Do they still have to do the exercise?
Well, not really. So let's think about that right quick. Our muscles in our tongue and lips, all these muscles, they have muscle memory.
Right.
Okay. So if you go to the gym and you work out your arms and your legs, that's great. You build them up. But let's say you have to stop going to the gym. You're going to lose some of that. Okay. Because you aren't using those same muscles in the way that you were. However, it is my belief that when you stop, you're going to get your tongue toned and stronger and also skinnier. I forgot, I need to throw that in there because I talked about the wide tongues. This program also accounts for that and can make your tongue skinnier. I know that sounds crazy, but it's okay. So, but anyway, I have forgotten what I was talking about. Actually.
Well, we were talking about like after the 7 weeks.
Right. Okay. So after the 7 weeks, your tongue's very strong. So you are going to continue what you've always done with your tongue and your lips. You're going to chew your food. You are going to talk to people. You will still use your tongue the way you always have, but now it's in good shape. And so muscle memory, and it should stay good. But I do provide a very simple maintenance program just to remind you of some of my favorite exercises that can kind of bring you back into the fold if you think that you're slipping for some reason, but no problem.
Well, Janet, I got to tell you, and first of all, Janet's going to be back again with us next month because I've got so many more questions for you. And you are kind enough, you're going to, if someone calls you or contacts you through your website, you will give them a 10% discount.
Absolutely.
I think that's wonderful. And I got to tell you that because I'm on a CPAP machine, if this works for you, this is so much better than being on that machine because the machine is not the most comfortable thing, to have on every night while you're sleeping. It works, but I got to tell you, if you should at least try this first.
Absolutely. Oh, there is a 60-day money back guarantee.
Well, that's even better. Jenna, give everybody your phone number again.
Okay, it's 828-273-9888. And I want you to, all of you in Houston, I want you to realize that we've made a website just for you. It's stopsnoringhouston.com. You go there and you can see more videos of me teaching things. I can teach people how to swallow a pill. A lot of people have trouble swallowing a pill. Do we have time for me to train everybody right now?
We've got only a minute left.
Okay. Well, okay, that probably won't work, but
that means you got to come back. Well, you're going to be back.
Okay.
And we'll let you know when Janet's going to be back.
Okay.
And if you like, we're going to be in other cities too with the show. So, Janet, I am so glad we are blessed to have you. And we will see you again next month.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Janet.
Thank you.
We'll see you.
Okay,
that
bye-bye.
Is Janet Bennett, and I'm telling you, as a patient, sleep apnea patient, I am so glad that we have her. Because if we can show you a better way to stop snoring without some kind, there's a lot of gimmicks out there, folks, that tell you clip something on your nose and it's going to stop snoring. I promise you, I've tried them all. The only thing that worked for me was the CPAP machine. And here we're basically showing you a way that you don't have to use a CPAP machine. So give Janet a call, go to her website, Stop Snoring Houston, and I'm telling you, This is wonderful. Now, our next show is, well, this is tax time. And I got to tell you, there's so many things happening. They're hiring all these agents, which is really scary. But our next show is going to be on tax relief. And we're waiting for them to come on. Oh, there he is. There's Finis.
Hi, Steve-O.
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Doing great. You're looking like you're feeling a lot better.
We're kind of talking about a scary subject today.
Yes.
But you're going to direct them in the right way. And I got to tell you, I am going to tell you, because a friend of mine went through this. When you get that letter from the IRS, the worst thing you can do is either toss it or throw it in a drawer, because it's not going to go away, is it, Finis?
That's right. That's absolutely right. No, and I see that a lot. I see people come to me with a box of unopened IRS mail going back. And I'll tell you, the tax law case books are full of tragic cases where taxpayers had good, solid legal defenses to IRS claims, and they waived them by not opening the mail, by not meeting their deadlines, and sometimes by not updating their address with the IRS. IRS, all they have to prove in court is we mailed it to him at the last known address over here. That he mailed and didn't file out the form with us telling us where to send his new mail, that's not our fault. We met our burden of proof, pay me. So what I wanted to talk about today were some of the scary things that can happen to people other than get the IRS mail. It can get a lot scarier than that. People ask me,
I just want to tell everybody, you don't just do tax relief. You also handle debt, credit card debt, student loan debt, business debt. But today we're talking about tax debt.
That's right. That's right. We handle all kinds of debts, but tax debt is one of the most serious ones. The IRS is probably slower than most creditors, but they are among the most powerful. Congress gets to write the rules for the federal government, and they've got powers that no one else does. There's no homestead protection. The bankruptcy protection is very, very limited. You've got to give the IRS a fair opportunity to collect the money before you could get a bankruptcy discharge of IRS debt. But let's talk first about, I get calls every year from folks who haven't filed their tax returns in years. And they know they needed to. The most serious of these are people who own their own businesses and are self-employed. They're the most likely to get audited because W-2 wage earners, they've been paying taxes all along. Small business owners often do not. They've got everybody else to pay, and the IRS sometimes is left last in line, and that's a serious mistake because they're the creditor who can send out people with guns, padlock your doors, take your business, take your home, garnish your paychecks, garnish the accounts receivable that you've earned from your customers, and ruin your relationships with them and your reputation. Their powers are vast and expected to increase exponentially over the coming years.
80,000 new agents.
It's going to be a wave of enforcement that we probably haven't seen in decades. Well, let's talk about non-filers. What do I tell non-filers? I say, we need to file your returns, the last 6 returns, and as soon as possible. Even if we have to estimate some of these items, if we can't find the records or we have to wait on the records, if there's a potential criminal investigation out there, there is a race to get those returns on file with the IRS. Because once you file those returns, even if you can't pay the tax, that will almost always head off a criminal investigation if there's no other evidence of criminal wrongdoing. But once they open a criminal investigation, then you file your returns. It's probably not going to stop it. They probably have good cause to go forward with it. So it's very helpful to get those filed before the criminal investigation opens up, or before some whistleblower tells them that take a look at this guy. Now,
and finished, isn't it? If you don't get those taxes filed, they're going to charge you on your gross amount. So if you've got write-offs, that's what Dennis is telling you.
Oh,
that you got to do your taxes.
Yeah, if you wait long enough, the IRS will prepare what's called a substitute return. And all it's going to show is the gross income, the deposits. They don't put down any of your business deductions, your payroll expenses, property taxes, any of that kind of stuff. So it's going to be way over tax. You could still file a tax return if you act soon enough and get it straightened out, but you don't want to wait that long for a number of other reasons. Another reason to file timely is because it starts the IRS statute of limitations running. The clock starts running when you file those returns, even if you haven't paid the tax. Now, how long can the IRS take to audit you? Generally, they have 3 years to audit your deductions and income unless the taxpayer understates his gross income by 25%. Then it doubles to 6 years. So you want to be extra careful estimating your income and make sure it's enough. Now, the scary part is sometimes that 25%, say someone's got a big loss carry forward or just had a slow year, that 25% is not that much in dollars, maybe $5,000, something like that. But it could double the statute of limitations, lead to an audit that would cost tens of thousands of dollars to defend, appeal, litigate, so forth. So get the returns filed as soon as possible. I think I mentioned also that bankruptcy discharge is not available, according to the courts, unless a return has been timely filed, a valid return. Now, the saddest thing that I see when people come to me who haven't filed returns are the ones who have missed their deadlines for refunds, sometimes huge refunds, $300,000 refunds that have missed just because of procrastination. And I hate to watch grown people cry. Yes. But it is sad. We're all crying when that happens. But limitations, it can bite you or it can help you, but you definitely don't want to lose a refund. Now, let me tell you a story about someone who got in trouble with the IRS, and they opened up a criminal investigation, probably just because of his profession. He was a professional gambler, traveled a lot internationally, didn't have very good records, but they sicked the criminal investigation division and were prosecuting him and really pushing it forward. He had accountants working on his taxes, but his criminal lawyers persuaded him to plead guilty. And he pled guilty. I admitted I committed tax evasion and I'm going to pay it, but we're still doing the audits, and subject to whatever the audit outcome is, I'm guilty and throw myself on the mercy of the court. Meanwhile, the accountants finished their job. Turns out he had a refund coming. He didn't know the IRS. He didn't even have to file a tax return. But he goes back into that federal court, and that federal district judge, appointed for life, tells him, I don't care if you didn't owe the money. You came in here and admitted under oath that you had committed tax evasion, and sentenced him to 18 months. Wow. That's sad. He didn't owe a penny. So the moral of the story is get the accountants in doing their investigation at the front end, not at the back end. You got to get them ahead of the game. And the best criminal defense lawyers, they will approach the government before the criminal investigation gets underway and say, hey, we want to cooperate. We want to disclose, we want to be transparent. And the IRS has a program. The Criminal Investigation Division has a long-running program for that. but it requires full, complete, accurate disclosure of information necessary to report the taxes. And you got to get it in before they get any whistleblower information. Once they get the whistle blown, it's too late. They can still come after you and put you in jail. Federal sentences, people think, oh, it's a country club. I visited people in federal prison. It's not pleasant. And you got to serve 85% of your sentence. That's the only time off. No conjugal visits. So that's not a good tax plan.
No.
I think that you're going to work it off with a federal prison, and they do work. Now, let's talk about some of the risk factors.
Yeah, I was wondering, how long does a person have before the IRS will go after them criminally for not filing their returns?
It depends. That's not an easy answer, but let's just say in general, there's no whistleblower and there's no other criminal activity. It's not Al Capone that they're coming after or something. Usually about 3 or 4 years before they start seeing, from filing a return, before they would start seeing a criminal investigation or so, that enforcement. So it's really a last resort. The IRS, they have limited resources, or historically have, and they don't try that many criminal cases every year, just a few thousand. And they really focus on, they want the most bang for their buck. So they're going to go after the famous, the wealthy, the Al Capones, the Queen of Mean, Leona Helmsley. Remember her quote? We don't pay taxes, only the little people pay taxes. Well, they have a lesson for her. But who else? A lot of athletes, Darryl Strawberry, Pete Rose. You know, those guys make the headlines. Who was the actor? That great criminal action movie. Wesley Snipes. Boy.
Oh, yeah.
Advice. And Willie Nelson. He didn't get criminal, but he sure got some bad tax advice along the way and paid a fortune for it. Some of the other factors. So wealth and fame is a big one. The amount in controversy, of course. Someone who owes 6 or 7 figures is a lot more likely to draw a criminal referral than someone who owes 5 to 15,000. Now, a lot of these criminal investigation cases start as whistleblower cases. The IRS has a program where they pay bounties for anybody who comes forward with evidence to help them convict tax cheats. Who are those? Usually someone with whom the taxpayer had a relationship and is now disgruntled. Former employees, former lovers, or ex-wives. So it's best to treat people kindly and nice and gently and civil and treat them fairly. And it's often not the taxpayer's fault that they are criminally prosecuted. Sometimes it's bad accounting, bad records, bad luck, whatever. Sometimes it's just impossible to know what triggered the IRS criminal referral, but it's best to get ahead of it and concede what the taxpayer cannot prove and work out the best deal that can be worked out to try to keep the criminal prosecution from going forward. Sometimes they'll settle for just civil penalties, but the 70% fraud civil penalty is still pretty steep, pretty harsh.
Yeah.
I've seen it applied in cases where people took excessive deductions for art donations. There was all a big scam on them, but the question that kind of gets them to see clearly is, okay, you deducted $75,000 of art, you've got an appraiser. How much did you pay for that valuable antique African art? Oh, $10,000. And 2 months later, you deducted, how much was that? And there's just no way that's going to fly. Too good to be true. Some professions are more likely to get into trouble. The self-employed get in far more trouble than W-2 employees, because W-2 employees get their pay deducted from every paycheck. It's kind of invisible to them. If they had to pay their taxes at the end of the year and worry about deducting expenses, they'd be in as much trouble as the self-employed. certain professions are the favorites of the IRS. Lawyers, professional gamblers, real estate. Who else have you seen get in trouble? I've got my paralegal here, John, and some other professions you've seen get in trouble.
I don't remember.
Restaurateurs, because a lot of cash and very common for them to show losses. People who have expensive hobbies, ranches, airplanes, things like that, that they deduct as a business, but they never quite make much taxable income at it. If you go like about 3 years without showing taxable income, they're going to assume it's not for profit making, and that ranch is very unlikely to be able to be used to offset higher taxed income.
We had a question texted in. They're asking if they can't afford to pay the taxes, how can they afford you?
Well, that's a good question, but I've got an easy answer for that. You can't afford not to get good help.
Okay.
I've been doing this for 37 years because what people invest in me, I know enough how to do this to get them a good return on their investment. If it doesn't look like I can get them a good return on their investment, I'm the first to tell them, you should just pay the tax or pay the penalty. Don't look back, just keep going. You'll get certainty, and that's pretty common answer sometimes here. This is expensive. Hiring tax professionals is expensive.
What's also important is that once they hire you, they no longer have to talk to the IRS. As long as they're talking to the IRS, they're probably digging themselves a deeper hole.
And I've seen that, and it's tragic to see because they don't know the rules, and they're dealing with someone who interrogates people all day, every day, and they just lead them right down the primrose path. And the taxpayers just don't know the traps that they're stepping into. So they're much, much safer. Plus, they're bound by whatever they tell the IRS. The IRS is going to put it in his notes. Agent's going to put in his notes. That's going to become an exhibit. It's going to be used at trial. The lawyer could be mistaken. So it's much safer to have a spokesman there. Plus, we know how to put things in ways that aren't quite as much of a evidentiary commitment. You know, we can qualify some things. You know, we're looking into this, but this is our belief at that time. But I do believe always in being completely honest and transparent with the IRS and all governmental agencies. If a professional loses that reputation and that trust, life gets very hard. Our ability to help people gets much, much more tenuous and expensive. So I value that, and it is valuable to my clients.
Tell people how important that have a business about paying those federal income taxes on their employees.
That, after criminal defense, payroll tax is the most dangerous kind of tax. Why? Trust fund. When employers withhold taxes from their employees' paycheck, the law says that belongs to the government, and you, the employer, are holding it in trust for the taxpayers. And if you don't turn it over, report it and turn it over, they take that very seriously. And there is no LLC shield, no limited liability shield, no corporate shield, no bankruptcy discharge. They will track you down, and that will follow you beyond the grave. Very difficult to defend. There are some trust fund defendants who can get off that it's a mistake that they were on. They were just a courtesy check signer authority, and they're not a true responsible person. Those happen occasionally. But the most common defense is just, I can't afford to pay that $3 million. Well, what can you pay? And that's where the majority of our work is, to show what the reasonable collection potential is based on their circumstances, earning capacity, or whatever. And we save a lot of people, save people a lot of money that way by reducing the amount that they owe. But they're tough cases to defend because of the way the law is interpreted. It says it has to be a willful violation. Well, you know what willful is in the courtroom? It just means spending 1 penny of the tax money that should have gone to the IRS on something else. And that's what employers and that are strapped for cash do so common. They think the IRS isn't going to come after me for months and months. So I better pay the payroll. I better pay these suppliers or we'll be out of business next week. I can make that up to the government later. And all too often they cannot. And the trust fund nightmare starts. And you're going to pay tens of thousands of dollars to a lawyer to get you out of that. It's an expensive case. You've got to file a federal lawsuit usually just to get the ball rolling to prevent collection enforcement, shutting down a business.
You know, people, again, I want to just really emphasize that don't try to handle this yourself, thinking you're going to save yourself some money. Because I'm going to tell you something, it is going to cost you a lot more not to hire someone like Finis.
Oh, absolutely. The money you spend on qualified accountants and lawyers is a good investment. And if you're in business, it's deductible, and it's just so important. Life is too short not to have it. Now, you have to cooperate with your tax professionals. Some people come to me, give me a check, and expect me to wave a magic wand, make their problems go away. I cannot. I cannot. I need their help. You've got to load my gun. I have a series of form letters I have to send to clients like that, increasingly stern about here's what I need. I've asked you for it. This is your second reminder. The increasingly stern reminders. The final one is, if I don't get it by the end of the month, I have to withdraw. Because the IRS has very little patience. Once they wake up to you and start, they have to answer to the big IRS computer and their supervisor, and you don't want to make them look bad. They're very harsh. Let me tell you what happened to me. Last November 21st, I had an IRS appeals down at the IRS office scheduled, and a business audit worth millions of dollars that had been going on for years. On November the 20th, I was at the emergency room, and they had to admit me to Methodist Hospital here in emergency surgery to remove my gallbladder. I called this IRS appeals officer on that Monday morning after getting my gallbladder cut out and said, I can't be there this morning. I can't leave the hospital. I got tubes all in me. She wouldn't postpone it. That's how serious they take it. I said, 1 week. It's Thanksgiving week. It's 3 business days. Give me a week. They wouldn't do it.
Wow.
You got to take these deadlines just as seriously as they do.
You know, it's one of the things I wanted you to tell people, and if it sounds like we're trying to scare you, we are. We are. Tell people some of the things the IRS can do.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're very, very powerful once they get their mind up to it. But we've got clients who had accounts receivable, money they had earned, that their valued clients were going to pay them. IRS issued writs of garnishment and took the money straight out of their customers' bank accounts before it even made it to the taxpayer. In one case, they didn't just use the business's taxpayer ID. They put one of the owner's social security number on there, and she wasn't even liable for the taxes. So often they're incredibly unlawful in their collection efforts. That's why you often need a lawyer. But often, for some folks, the amount in controversy is not worth the cost. Well, you need someone to assess that and tell you that. The IRS does not always play by the rules. They are not always fair. And you definitely need somebody who knows the ropes on your side.
Finis, give everybody your phone number again for those
Sure.
who are listening on radio.
832-341-4599. There it is, right there on the footnote, and there's our
Yes.
website too.
That's great for the TV people, but the radio people can't see that.
Oh, just the audio's on. Okay, good.
Yes. So
well, let me read that out. It's
okay.
TexasDebtDefense.com. That's Texas Debt, DEBT, Defense.com.
Well, this show goes by so fast, and you'll be back with us again. And God, my phone's already buzzing now already. Dennis, thank you so much. You are just a wonderful guest, and I'm so glad we have you as part of our experts.
Thank you, Steve-O. It's always good to spend some
time. Have a good weekend.
Take care. Glad you're doing so much better. Bye.
This is the Ask the Expert show, and we will be back with you again next week with more Ask the Experts. We've got some great experts coming on our show. Tell your friends about the show. Have a good weekend. God bless everybody.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.